I read the book The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. The characters in this book are her family. The first character is Rex Walls, her father. Rex is a gambler and an alcoholic, but he always proves that he's a good father, when really he's not. Like, he does certain things. And Jeanette always believes in him, and you can tell throughout the book that he kind of favors Jeanette. I have money for him because he's a gambler. Rosemary is the mom, and she is also selfish, but she loves her kids, which is important, but she has a teaching degree, and she doesn't use it. She just, paints at home, so for her, I have a paintbrush, because that's all she does, and she doesn't make a living. Lori is the oldest child, and she's really close with Jeanette throughout the book. She doesn't really like her life, and her parents, she definitely wasn't the favorite of the kids because she was mute and bald until she was 3. But I have a pencil for her because she's really good at drawing. The next character is Jeanette, and Jeanette is the author of this book. And Jeanette looks like this today. She is the main character throughout the book, and she wrote the book, as you know. She always believes in her father for some reason, even when the other kids don't. Like, they had a really close relationship. For her, I have a magazine because she was the editor-in-chief for the school newspaper. Brian is the only boy of the family, and he doesn't like his father, and he thinks he's a bad father because he doesn't protect his family, so he takes on the role to protect his sisters, and he does a good job. For him, I have a ball because boys like to play with balls as kids and stuff. Maureen is the last child, and she's born a couple years after, and she doesn't really have anybody to take care of her for just growing up, and so she's kind of the neglected one. And she's the only one that has blonde hair and is not redhead and pale. But Jeanette, Lori, and Brian have red hair and like freckles and stuff. But she has blonde, pale skin. Maureen gets a plane ticket because she always wants to travel places. The main plot in this book is Jeanette gets a bad injury when she's 3 years old. Like, she gets burns all over her body because she was making hot dogs as a 3-year-old and got it all, and her dress caught on fire. But then instead of paying the bills and checking out as a normal person, Rex kind of stole her. Then they went on a road trip and said that the FBI was after him when really it wasn't the FBI. And then they on the road for a while. They live in California. They live in small towns, raising barely just enough money. And then they go to this other town, and it's one of the bigger ones that they stay in. But basically, Maureen is born at this time. Maureen is born. But basically, they live there for a while, and the dad's always gambling and stuff. But then they leave one day, and Jeanette doesn't understand why. But there's this boy that's really scary to Jeanette, and they get in a fight. And so then they leave town to Arizona where their grandma lives, and yeah. Then they go to a lot more small towns, and then they go to Welch, where Irma, the grandmother, Ted, the grandfather, Stanley, the uncle, and they're really mean people, and they're racist, and they have bad attitudes, and the kids hate them. And Stanley's even in a program to Jeanette. But other than that, it's all good. Not really. They like move into a house with no plumbing. And then, well, the mom doesn't want to get a job. The dad's always out gambling. Kids don't have any food, but then the child services come. But then Jeanette lies and says that their life is peachy keen and they're all good. Then Irma dies, and Rex is greatly bothered by this, and the kids were really surprised by that. So then, after high school, Jeanette and to New York, and then their dad takes the money and goes gambling and doesn't win it back, and Jeanette and Lori hate him. So then Jeanette, for one of the families she babysits, they offer her to go to Iowa over the summer and buy her bus ticket to Welch, but instead she makes Lori go and then buys the bus ticket to New York. So then Lori's gone. Then a year later, Jeanette joins her with her own bus ticket, and then the dad's really sad by this because Jeanette's like his daughter, or like his favorite. Then Brian comes along eventually a couple years later, and so does the whole family, and that kind of made Jeanette mad because she wanted to get away from them. Then instead of getting a house and everything, the parents live homelessly, even though their kids are well off and married. And then one day, Jeanette's mother comes and asks for $1 million, and Jeanette doesn't understand why. And it's because her brother died and she needs to inherit the land back from the government that they own for oil drilling. And Jeanette finds out that while they were eating nothing for dinner for days, their mom had $1 million if she just sold the land, which she didn't do. So that made Jeanette really mad. And then she told Lori and Brian, and they were really mad too. So then they forgive their parents because they're homeless and they feel bad for them and everything. But then the dad dies of disease, kind of like tuberculosis, but not really. And then the mom stays homeless for a while. Then she comes to live with Lori, and then Maureen finally goes to California because she's been doing drugs, and her life hasn't been that great. So that's basically where the book ends. They have like Thanksgiving dinner at Jeanette's house. That's where the book ends. And I would definitely recommend this book to other people, but it should be noted that there is bad language, there is inappropriate behavior from older men towards younger women, and it talks about like how children are like the neglected maybe day life.